All right, let's talk about a big move from one of India's defense powerhouses, Bharat Electronics. You probably know them as BEL. They've just announced a dividend, which might sound simple, but what does that one number really tell us about the company's health and where it's headed? Well, that's what we're going to decode right now. Let's dive in.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the dividend announcement itself. Then we'll dig into the numbers that are actually driving this news. After that, we'll get to know the company, Bharat Electronics. We'll weigh the good against the potential risks. And finally, we'll look at what's next for BEL.
All right, first up, the dividend announcement. Let's get right into the what, the when, and the how.
So the number you need to know is 1 rupee and 95 paise. That's the interim dividend BEL's board has just declared for every single share you might hold. Pretty straightforward, right?
But what does this number really tell us about the company? I mean, on the surface, it's just some cash for shareholders, right? But what we're about to see is that this little number, it's a huge signal about the company's confidence, its performance, and its whole strategy. It's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, let's get the logistics out of the way. The declaration was on February 27th, and the payout will happen within 30 days of that. But the date you really want to circle on your calendar is the record date, March 6th. That's the one that really matters for investors. And hey, if you're kind of new to this, the record date is super simple. It's just the official cutoff. If you're on the company's books as a shareholder by the end of that day, boom, you get the dividend. That's all there is to it. Now, a company doesn't just decide to hand out cash for no reason, right? A dividend like this has to be fueled by something. And in this case, it's some seriously impressive performance. So let's pop the hood and see what numbers are really driving this story.
So, where's all this confidence coming from? Well, it's powered by an absolutely exceptional third quarter. The numbers they just posted are strong, and they tell a really clear story about growth. And just look at this growth. We're talking year over year. Profit up by more than 20%. And revenue? That shot up by an incredible 24%. Now, this isn't just some small, steady increase. This is a major acceleration, and it's exactly what gives a company's board the confidence to say, yeah, let's reward our shareholders.
You know, and this isn't some flash in the pan either. This is actually BEL's 54th dividend payout since 2001. I mean, think about that. That kind of consistency, year after year, just screams that they have a rock-solid, reliable cash flow. It's not a fluke, it's a pattern. Okay, so we've seen the dividend, we've seen the powerhouse numbers behind it, but who exactly is Bharat Electronics? Let's zoom out for a minute and get the big picture.
BEL has been around for a while. We're talking 70 years. They kicked things off way back in 1954 under the Ministry of Defense, mainly making radars. Then you flash forward to 1971, and they hit a huge milestone. They delivered their first IFF system to the Air Force. Now, IFF stands for Identification, Friend or Foe, which is basically the supercritical tech that prevents you from shooting down your own planes. From there, they went public on the stock market, seriously ramped up their research, and now here we are in 2024, and they're delivering cutting-edge drone defense systems. It's an incredible story of evolution.
So what does BEL actually make? Well, the best way to think about it is that they build the electronic brains behind India's entire defense setup. I mean, they make the critical systems that go inside everything from our fighter jets, like the LCA Tejas, to massive naval warships. We're talking radars, sonars, electronic warfare systems, communication gear, basically all the high-tech stuff that gives our military its edge. And what's interesting is they're not just about defense, they're also branching out into civilian stuff like smart cities and even solar power.
So who owns this place? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. BEL is what's called a Navratna, PSU. Now, that Navratna title is a big deal in India. It basically means one of the 9 jewels, and it gives them way more freedom and financial autonomy than your typical government-run company. So, well, yes, the government of India is the majority owner. Look at this. Almost 40% is held by big-time domestic and foreign institutional investors. It's this really unique mix of government backing and private market smarts.
Okay, so now we know who BEL is and what they do. Let's get into a more balanced view. I mean, every company has its strengths and, potential risks, and it's super important to look at both sides of the coin for BEL. Let's start with the benefits, because there are some big ones. For starters, BEL practically has a monopoly in supercritical areas like radar and electronic warfare. They've got a massive order pipeline that gives them visibility for years to come. We already talked about how they're a consistent dividend payer, and they have a high return on equity, which is just a fancy way of saying they're really profitable. Plus, they're perfectly positioned to benefit from the Make in India push. But there's always a but, right? On the risk side, we all know defense projects can face huge delays. Their biggest customer is the government, which can put pressure on their prices. And, maybe most importantly, competition from the private sector is absolutely heating up.
So, with all that in mind, what's next? Let's turn our eyes to the horizon and see what the future could hold for BEL based on what they're saying and what the experts think. Check out this number, 27,000 crore rupees. That's the size of the order book that BEL's management is forecasting for the next financial year. I mean, that is just a massive pipeline of guaranteed work. It's the foundation for their future revenue and the reason they're so confident.
And you better believe the market analysts are paying attention. Just as one example, you've got Choice Broking out with a buy rating and a target price of $550. And why are they so optimistic? Well, they're looking at huge upcoming orders, like a massive 2,400 crore rupee contract just for the electronics on the LCA Tejas jets.
And really, this all brings us to the crucial final question. The whole story of BEL right now kind of boils down to this. Can its absolutely massive order book and its strategic importance to the nation outweigh the very real and growing challenges of execution and competition?